Try to tickle yourself right now. It won't work. Your brain has been quietly canceling this exact sensation your entire life, and the reason reveals something bigger about what reality even means to you. Run your own fingers along your ribs, the same spot that sends someone else into helpless laughter. Nothing happens. Maybe a faint, distant sense of pressure. No shrieking, no flinching, no involuntary full-body reaction. The exact same nerve endings, the exact same touch, the exact same intensity, and somehow, your brain treats it as a complete non-event. This isn't a personality quirk. It isn't about being ticklish or not ticklish. It happens to virtually everyone, every time, with total consistency, and it has nothing to do with the physical sensation itself. The touch reaching your skin is identical whether your own hand does it or someone else's does. What's different is not the input. What's different is your brain's prediction about the input, made a fraction of a second before it ever arrives. To understand why, you have to understand something your brain is doing constantly, without your awareness, called an efference copy. Every single time your brain sends a motor command telling your hand to move, it doesn't just send that command once. It sends a duplicate copy of the instruction to a separate part of the brain, essentially warning the rest of your nervous system. This exact movement is about to happen, and here is exactly what sensation to expect as a result. This isn't a vague heads up. It's a precise, detailed prediction matched to the specific timing, direction, and pressure of the movement you're about to make. When the real sensory feedback arrives a moment later, your brain compares it against the prediction it already made. If the two match closely, if the actual sensation lines up with what was predicted, your brain treats the input as old news, something already accounted for, and it suppresses the perceived intensity. This is why you don't feel your own clothes rubbing against your skin all day, why you don't notice the weight of your own tongue resting in your mouth, why the constant self-generated sensation of blinking barely registers. Your nervous system is built to prioritize the unexpected. Predictable self-generated sensations get quietly filtered out, because reacting strongly to every single thing your own body does to itself all day would be exhausting. And worse, it would drown out the signals that actually matter, the ones coming from outside, the ones that might represent a threat or something new. Tickling is a special case of this same filtering system. When someone else touches you unexpectedly, there's no efference copy for your brain to compare it against, because you didn't generate the movement. There's no prediction to cancel it out. The sensation arrives raw, unfiltered, flagged as new and unaccounted for, and your nervous system reacts accordingly, sometimes with an intensity that borders on genuinely uncontrollable. When you try to tickle yourself, your brain has already issued the prediction milliseconds before your fingers even make contact, and the moment the real sensation arrives matching that prediction almost perfectly, it gets dampened before it can register as anything worth reacting to. In 1998, a team led by neuroscientist Sarah Jane Blakemore at University College London ran an experiment specifically designed to test this mechanism directly. They built a simple robotic device that allowed a person to control a foam-tipped rod with one hand, which would then tickle their other hand, either instantly or with a small, deliberately introduced delay. When the delay between the person's own movement and the resulting tickle sensation was zero, the sensation felt exactly like normal self-touch, faint, unremarkable, easy to ignore. But as the researchers introduced even a small delay, as little as a fraction of a second, participants rated the sensation as noticeably more ticklish. By the time the delay reached roughly 200 milliseconds, the sensation felt almost as ticklish as being tickled by someone else entirely. The reason is elegant once you see it. A delay breaks the precise timing match your brain needs in order to confidently link the sensation to your own recent action. The prediction your brain generated was tied to an exact expected moment of contact. If the actual sensation arrives even slightly outside that predicted window, the match falls apart. Your brain can no longer confidently attribute the sensation to yourself, and it gets processed the same way an external touch would, unfiltered and suddenly, genuinely ticklish. Blakemore's team went further, using brain imaging to look at what was happening during these trials. When people tickled themselves with no delay, activity in the somatosensory cortex, the brain region responsible for processing touch, was measurably reduced compared to when they were tickled by the machine unpredictably. The dampening wasn't just a subjective feeling participants reported afterward. It was a measurable, physical reduction in how strongly the brain's touch processing regions responded to the exact same physical stimulus, happening in real time, purely based on whether the brain believed the sensation was self-generated or not. This single mechanism turns out to explain far more than ticklishness. It's part of the reason your voice sounds louder and closer to you than it does to anyone else in the room. Since your brain predicts mimics and partially cancels the sound of your own speech. It's part of the reason you can walk through a cluttered room in the dark, brushing against furniture, without every single contact registering as alarming, because your brain has already predicted roughly where your body will be and what it will touch along the way. Your entire moment-to-moment experience of your own body is built less on raw sensory data than on a constant stream of predictions checked against reality, with the boring, expected matches quietly filtered out before you ever notice them. And this is where it stops being a fact about tickling and starts being something closer to unsettling. Nearly everything you experience as reality isn't a direct, unfiltered feed of the world reaching your senses. It's a prediction constantly generated in advance, then lightly adjusted by whatever sensory information actually arrives. Most of the time, the prediction is close enough that you never notice the gap. You believe you're experiencing the world directly, in real time, when you're actually experiencing your brain's best guess about the world, updated just quickly enough that the illusion of direct, unmediated experience holds together seamlessly. This is also why certain people with schizophrenia have been found, in real clinical studies, to be able to tickle themselves. Researchers studying this connection found that patients experiencing certain symptoms, particularly passivity experiences, where a person feels their own actions are being controlled by an external force, show a breakdown in exactly this predictive mechanism. If the brain system for confidently attributing your own movements to yourself is disrupted, the efference copy either fails to generate correctly or fails to properly cancel the resulting sensation, and self-touch stops being filtered the normal way. In some documented cases, these individuals rate self-tickling as nearly as intense as being tickled by another person, a direct, measurable consequence of a broken prediction system, and one of the clearest pieces of evidence that ordinary self-tickle suppression depends entirely on a healthy, functioning sense of authorship over your own actions. Which means the reason you can't tickle yourself isn't really about tickling at all. It's a side effect of something your brain does every single second of your life, silently deciding which sensations are worth your attention and which ones are simply the expected consequences of being a body that moves through the world. Somewhere behind that quiet, automatic filtering system is a working definition of the self, drawn constantly, moment to moment, not from what you remember or what you look like, but from a simple, continuous test your brain runs thousands of times a day. Did I cause this, or did something else? Everything you've ever felt as uniquely, undeniably real, the touch that startled you, the sound that made you turn around, the sensation that pulled your full attention, was real specifically because your brain had already decided, quietly and instantly, that you didn't see it coming. You will never be able to tickle yourself, not because your body is incapable of it, but because some part of you is always one step ahead, quietly telling the rest of you exactly what to expect next.